3 pillars to every business: marketing, sales, and delivery. We're looking solely at marketing pillar right now. Pillar number 1, consistently putting your art out there. Marketing does not always mean that you're making an offer, although the offer is almost always implied, right? So if we think of companies like Coca-Cola or Nike, they have consistent marketing. They're consistently putting themselves out there, through their commercials or advertisements or product placement. But don't always say, like on the ads, hey, a can of Coke costs $1 and you can buy it here. Same thing with Nike. It's like everybody knows that their products are for sale. The offer is implied, and they also know where to buy the product. Okay. So if we think of these products, we know that they are selling these products, right? So they don't have to really tell us that. So but every time that we see a commercial or an advertisement for products like these or others, it just reestablishes the awareness of them in our mind. And so, of course, if we like that brand, or if we like their message, if we like their product, like, for example, Dove products might be equally as good as herbal essences in terms of like what the product actually does for you. But because of branding and because of brand awareness, somebody might be more likely to buy, let's say, Nike or Dove, or, over something else, Nike over Adidas, or Nike over Reebok, or Coca-Cola over Pepsi or RC Cola, right? So the branding and the marketing is super, super important here. Now, for artists, it can become a bit of a problem because we also have to make regular enough offers, because there can be so much confusion in the marketplace about artists and buying art. Like, is there art for sale? Is there art available for sale? And so we have to make offers regularly, but making offers is not necessarily part of our marketing. Okay, so that collectors do understand where to purchase the art when they're ready. So these kind of products, like we know, we're so like trained now. The brand awareness is so high, right? So that we know where we can get these products and when, like we know where to go. But brand awareness is not super high for art buying, especially with artists, because some artists do things differently. Some artists only sell in galleries. And other artists are only selling on their own online. And so all of that has to be communicated to your collectors. Don't assume that they know anything, and they might just be too confused or too timid to ask. Okay. The second key to this pillar is communicating your brand, right? Like basically building your brand. Your brand showcases who you are as an artist, what you're about, what you stand for, what you stand against. It also shows what value, or for example, if you're teaching, what value does it provide to your customers? Because at the end of the day, we don't get paid for the time that we put into a piece of art, right? We're not working at an hourly wage. So this is not what this is about. We also don't get compensated even for our cost of materials. Why people pay us is because they value what we created. They value it enough to buy it. And if they value it more, they're going to pay more. If they value it less, they're going to pay less, right? Okay, so that is what your brand is all about. And what value do you provide to your customers? How is your art different from other artists or other kinds of art? What kind of art do you create? How does your art or service make your customer's life better? This is key, because desire, how the desires that you fulfill or the problems that you solve for your customers is the value, right? Like that's the value you provide. What kind of an itch does it scratch, right? So it's you're communicating your brand. It's a combination of like personal authenticity and basically sharing that and showcasing that, plus what specifically it is that you create. You know, some artists, not all artists are created equal, right? Like some artists specialize in still life oil painting. Some artists specialize in dog portraits or animal paintings, or you know what I mean? So you have to, and we're going to dig deeper into this, but you have to get more specific about what it is that you create, and also what is the value that your art provides, right? So it's these three things together that basically are building your brand. And you want to communicate all of this to your audience on the daily, regularly, through social media, through your emails, through, if you have a blog, you know, if you have any editorials or interviews or presentations, demonstrations that you're giving. This is what you're communicating: your personal authenticity, who you are as an artist, what it is exactly that you create and why, and how to, you know, basically what value you provide for your customer. Okay. So the next pillar is to attract an audience, and you really attract an audience by consistently putting your work out there. So the next piece is to nurture that audience, right? And to nurture them by making them offers and continuously communicating your brand, okay? So by consistently marketing and communicating your brand, we will attract an audience. It's our job then to nurture that audience by staying in touch with them regularly and continuing to communicate your brand and find out what your audience is looking for. This is primarily done through your email list. So the nurturing is primarily done through your email list, whereas the attracting can be done through a variety of different channels and like broader channels, right? Like, so kind of going to a really big pond and going fishing, and then the fish that, you know, bite the hook basically and sign up for our email list, those are the ones that we really want to stay in touch with and nurture more. Okay. So a customer who opts into your email list is more likely to do business with you and be willing to get to know you and your art more than just a social media or blog follower, right? So once someone is on your email list, we can communicate with them more effectively through automated, and this is what we'll talk about today, creating an automated nurturing welcome series, and then weekly, preferably weekly email newsletters, right? Email letters. Basically regular, at least once a week communication, updates, letters, offers to keep your audience in touch with you and keep them engaged. Okay, so let's kind of dive into what is it that you need to share in your welcome series, and also this new brand information can also be used on your about page, okay? So remember that both of these, the welcome series and the about page, are designed to help your people understand who you are and to help them feel like they know you better and build your likability and trust with them. It's really about trust, right? It's about connection and trust. So you are a real person and so are they, right? So you always want to keep that in mind. And I know it can be difficult because a lot of times we're on the computer writing this stuff and we're so close to it. So I also recommend that all of you, if you want to work on your writing, your copywriting, and if you want to share those emails, share your new about page, anything you've written in the Facebook group, and we can definitely look over them and get you some feedback on them as well. Because sometimes we're just so close to it, that whatever that saying is, can't see the forest from the trees. So it's really important to not just stay isolated, but to ask for support. Okay. And really try, this is where they talk a lot about knowing, basically coming up with like an ideal client avatar. It's basically pretending that you're talking to a real person, instead of, so that it does feel more personable and more connected. And again, it's really a challenge, but just do your best to use your imagination whenever you are writing your emails. Okay. So the email and the about page are designed to help them engage with you as well. Okay. So the welcome series can do that a little bit more personally than your about page can. However, on your about page, you can have a call to action on your about page at the bottom to get them onto your email list. So basically, once they kind of read a little bit about you on your website, then, or on your social media bio or something like that, then they can get on your email list. So I basically just have some questions here for you guys to answer. So it's a brand discovery exercise so that you can dig into this and find out, what you're all about. And I know sometimes we think, oh, well, I know what I'm all about, but it's really amazing how many of us aren't even aware of our own brand and what makes us unique or our art unique and makes us stand out a bit more from other artists. And the key here is to, not have fear about this, to just really dive into it, to have fun with it, to be super open and vulnerable. It does not mean that you have to include everything at the end, but I think if you go into this 100% open, wholehearted, not judging anything, just whatever comes up for you, that you share it, you write it down. So these are questions, basically answer any questions below that feel relevant to you. I would try to answer as many of them as you can. However, you don't have to answer all of them. I put in a bunch just to try to get as many ideas stimulated for you as possible. Okay, so I'll just run through some of the questions and then you guys can finish up some of them on your own. So who are you? And this goes beyond just like, I'm Kelly and I'm from Oklahoma, or I'm from Texas and Oklahoma, although that is part of who I am. And so people will automatically make connections about who I am based on where I'm from or where I live or where I grew up, But you want to go beyond that too. So any interesting or fun facts about you, you might not think they're interesting, but your audience certainly will. So are you a retired teacher, are you a postal worker, retired doctor? Do you have a PhD? Are you a cat lover? Are you a Taekwondo master? Are you a mom of, I stole this from Bobby. She wrote this, I think, in the group, mom of 3 and 6 grands, So that is stuff that is interesting to your collectors, You have 6 grandchildren, do you come from a big family, So anything, I'm just trying to stimulate some ideas here. But anything like, are you a yoga fanatic? Are you a yoga master? Do you have a spiritual practice that somehow, makes you stand out? And then, of course, things like, how did you get started painting? Have you always been an artist? How long have you been a professional artist? These types of things. I will say one thing here, and that is to make sure you never present yourself as a student, that you always present yourself claiming that professionalism, claiming that mastery. Even if you feel like you're not at master skill level yet, you want to claim that professionalism, right? Okay, then you want to describe your art more specifically. Remember, do not assume that people know squat jack diddly about painting, about you, anything, So what media do you use? Do you use multiple medias, oils, acrylics, mixed media, or all of the above? And why? Why? Are you absolutely in love with oil paint like I am? Why? Why do I love oil paint? You want to share things like that. So I would also type this stuff out in a document, because these are things that you can quickly pull from. Once you've written it out once, you can go back and revisit, and you can quickly pull things from it for ideas for your social media posts, newsletters, things like that, especially whenever you're stuck. what are your favorite experiences as an artist? I don't think that's in here, but, just trying to come up with like as many questions to stimulate your mind as possible for things to share. Do you paint from photos? Do you paint from imagination, from life? What the heck does that mean? Again, pretend like your customers don't know anything about your art or process. I'll never forget having a customer. I just like assumed everybody knew that I painted from life. Like, what? Why? Most people don't even know what that means, So I made the mistake of making that assumption. And then I was at an art show once, and pay attention to what people ask you too. And some collectors were asking me that. So they were like, oh, so are these from photo? Do you set these things up? They just didn't know. And so that notice like what repeated questions you get a lot, because those are things that your customers are questioning and don't know and maybe want to know more about. Do you do preliminary studies? Do you paint big? Do you paint small? Again, why or why not? What inspires you to create? What are your goals as an artist? What's your mission as an artist? Again, as long as you don't present yourself as a student. Do you have any brags? What memories or accomplishments are you most proud of or connected to? Also, do you have a mission with your art? What do you stand against? What do you stand for? All of these topics are going to be interesting to your audience and going to make it to where they can connect with you more, right? So don't be afraid to brag about yourself, as long as you're, not sounding super arrogant. Nobody likes anyone who comes across as too arrogant, right? But you definitely want to claim that professionalism, basically what I put somewhere on here, I put what makes your art better than all the rest of that crap out there. And obviously you don't want to word it that way. I'm saying that to kind of be funny, but you do want to differentiate yourself. You're making original artwork, you're very skilled, you're very talented, you're very expressive. What are the things that contribute to your art being special and being better than say, really bad hobby art or really hokey art, or, Bob Ross style art, or prints that they mass produced knockoff cheesy prints, with slogans on them, so things like that you just want to write about, consider, and don't be afraid to share those things either. So what do you stand for? What do you stand against? Basically, what are your values and your standards? So for example, using myself as an example, it's pretty clear that I stand for women artists having equal opportunities in a male-dominated art system. And you can't be afraid to speak up about those things. Just make sure that it is something that you really, really believe in, especially the more controversial it is. Make sure that, and this should not even be controversial, but it is. And I even have, female artists who have, basically criticized my point of view on this, and that's fine. So you just have to be, the more controversial it might be, you just have to make sure that you're prepared to handle any kind of criticism that you might receive for it, but it's worth the risk. And you do kind of want to alienate those people who do not stand with you on those values, right? Because that's really not your audience. Okay. So again, you want to be authentic, and make sure you're being authentic whenever you're sharing your values as well. Okay. So where are they? When I say, are they your customers? Where are your customers right now? Where are they reading this? Is it on an email? Is it on a website? And what will they, collectors or fans, gain from your art or being here? So for example, if it's an email, it might be like, hey, thank you so much for signing up for my email newsletter. So they know like, oh, this is where I'm at, or if it's on a website, just making sure that they know where are they and what is it that they will gain from being here, right? Whether it's an email list or on your website, what can they get from your email list, from your website? And it's as simple as like, You can get online instruction on my website. You can get original one-of-a-kind artwork that nobody else has in the world on my website, and you can buy it right here and now. You don't have to go to a gallery, So, okay. So take your time, work through all of those questions. And when we come back, we will go over some writing tips, the elevator pitch challenge, and the welcome series.